everyone, this is Deborah. Good morning. This video is about all the pros and cons of all the homes that I've lived in for the last 64 years. My earliest recollection is our house in Winchester. It was an old farmhouse with no electricity, no running water, and that was the cons. The pros was it was blissful. There was no neighbors. You had to spend the whole day using your imagination, and that is probably the best place I've ever lived in my life. And I had no amenities, no inside bathroom, as you may. The next house we lived in was on, I guess, in Oakton, Virginia. We lived in a house that was rented. We didn't own this one, and we lived right next door to a country store called Zook's, and that was the pro. If we wanted a candy bar, we just right next door. The cons was because we were on a main drag in Fairfax County. People were always running into the tree in our front yard. Okay, the next house was on Vale Road, and it was so tiny. We had 7 people living in this house with 1 bedroom, you know. And it seems like every time my father started to put in another bathroom or something, we would sell it and move somewhere else. So the con was that it was only 1 bedroom. We were stacked in there like sardines, and my mother and father, can you imagine having to sleep on a fold-out couch? It was horrible. But we had children next door to play with. So the next house we moved to was on Oakton Road in Oakton, Virginia, and this house was also small, and we had lots of children to play with. And this one, the con was that my father turned the garage into 2 bedrooms. He split it in 2 for me and my sister, who's no longer here. And the con was we had no heat back there. Okay, so then I got married and moved to Friendly Village of Dulles, which was a trailer park, and it was a very well-to-do trailer park. And the cons, I loved it. The cons was, and here I owned a house when I was 18. I mean, how many 18-year-olds can say that? But the con was that they had all these HOA rules where you weren't allowed to do this or that. You know, I should have learned from that experience not to screw with HOA. So then we moved to the Northern Neck in Lancaster, and it was a 3-bedroom house. And actually, there was nothing bad about that house that I can remember. It was wonderful. My children had a good childhood staying there, living there for 13 years. So then we moved to Weems, Virginia, which is also in the Northern Neck, and we had a contract for a deed, and that didn't pan out very well, but we put on a wraparound deck. We put in thousands of dollars of landscaping. We put in a huge dock. But because you really don't own it yet, I would very much advise everyone not to do a contract for a deed, because you will get ripped off. So then my next house was in Florida. It was on Harwood Avenue, and that was a rental. The only thing is, we had like 3 bathrooms, but 1 of them, or 2 of them, the commode stopped working, and the owner was in Germany, so it was very difficult to get someone to work on them. So then we moved again to Emerald Court, which is on South Patrick in Florida, and I tried to buy this house, but when you do a closing statement, what you need to come to closing with, they were off by about $2,000, so that deal fell through. So then we went and I bought another house on Harwood, and we completely redid all the floors with Mexican saltillo. I love that house. Let's see, and then we had also moved to Dallas, Texas, and my husband and I rented an apartment, and this was in a like almost 95% Hispanic neighborhood. So every night I went to bed listening to the music there. It seems like all the songs sounded the same. So then we moved to back to Satellite Beach. No, actually, yeah, we did. And then my children finished their high school years, and then I moved in with my parents for a couple of months in Northumberland County, and they lived in a farmhouse that was actually brought over on a barge on the Wicomico, and it was a Sears house. And that was, I think, the best house ever. It was in very much disrepair because it was like 70 years old or something. But that is the house that we had the most fun in because our children grew up there, and you know, you didn't have to worry about scratching the walls or scarring the walls, and it was a perfect house for raising grandchildren. And my mother and father loved this place, and actually they are buried in the front yard there. So then we moved to Stafford, Virginia, and this house, we completely gutted it and remodeled it with a jacuzzi, marble tile. We just redid the whole house, and I would have elaborate Christmas parties. I remember having to get a permit to bring liquor from one county to another because that's how elaborate my Christmas parties was. But the bad thing about this house was it had a lot of that smelly water, smelled like rotten eggs. So we had to have that conditioning system where you had to put the salt tablets in it. And my clothes were constantly being ruined with the stains. I forgot the word for it, but we had a lot of iron, so I had to buy a lot of iron out. And I remember whole loads of laundry would be destroyed if you did not maintain that softening system, I guess is what you call. So let's see. Then I left my husband and moved to our summer home in Ocean City, and this was this was on Harbor Island where they have the White Marlin open. I loved it, other than the manager that was of the HOA or whatever, the maintenance man. He was pursuing me. He was just a gross person. It was so bad that I had to leave. I mean, really, this guy assaulted me right in front of my grandchildren. So then I moved to what I call the broccoli farm. The broccoli farm was exactly what I needed. You need a home that you can have peace and tranquility. So if neighbors are not your thing, then move into the middle of a field. You know, that's what it was, 200 acres. I would take long walks, and boy, do I miss those long walks. The sun's kind of bothering me now. I love that place. I had a Labrador and a little dachshund, and they just loved walking around that property. And it was like 4,000 square foot, 4 bedrooms. It was wonderful, and I lived there all by myself, and I loved it. I have so many videos there. So then I went and moved behind Shoney's in Tappahannock, and it was a wonderful townhouse there because I had to move a lot because my divorce hadn't been final, and I never knew what was next. I never knew what was coming, and that's a terrible way to live when you're in the middle of a divorce. It took us like I guess about 10 years just to get a divorce, 7 court cases, and none of those was for the divorce. It was for the business that we owned. But the townhouse in Tappahannock, I loved it, except, you know, there was no protected parking. So that's another con, you know. You got to look about, do you want a garage? A garage is important if you have a car that you love. And, you know, of course you got to get out there and scrape all the snow off. So I really did love that townhouse, and my landlord was wonderful. Anytime I had a problem, he was there within minutes, his workers, I should say. So, let's see, where did I move to then? Oh, where I'm at now. And the con living here is that if you're on, if you have neighbors above you, they flooded me 10 times. Well, the lady eventually passed, and I have no more floods, you know. She kept denying that she was the problem. Well, honey, water flows down the south. So, other than that, I love the place that I'm at. I got a swimming pool, I have a dock, I'm right on the water, and it is gorgeous. And it's perfect size. I wish I had a little bit more room for closets, but I turned one whole bedroom into a closet. So that's another con. When you're moving and you have a lot of stuff, you know, you need that storage. And I hate to get a storage unit. I think that's just a waste of money. But I do have nice amenities, swimming pool and a dock to go fishing on. It's a beautiful brand new dock. And my neighbor is a police officer, so I feel pretty protected. So whenever you're looking at places to live, there's always going to be a con. There's always going to be nice things about it, and there's no such thing as a perfect place to live. So I hope this has enlightened you a little bit about, you know, if you're thinking about moving somewhere, you've got to look at all the things that affect that place. So bye everyone.